All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA DFS video. Have you guys covered here with, kind of an interesting Wednesday slate. What are your initial thoughts for today's slate?
Well, it's a regular slate. Nothing stands out too much, so I'm pretty excited about no super chalk, and it's not like super contrarian day either. Just seems like a standard slate.
Yeah, in terms of like injury news, do you want to start with Charlotte or Boston?
Start with Charlotte. Gordon Hayward got ruled out. Thought he might come back from his injury today. Cody Martin's in. Frank Ntilikina is out. LaMelo's out. Kyle Lowry is not playing for the team. And then Toronto, RJ Barrett not in the injury report. And it's just Jonte Porter out. So this is probably one of the games we want to target the most, I think. These are two fantasy-friendly teams, and we finally get they're both bad, and they get to play each other. So
yeah, I actually agree. I was doing like the prop stuff earlier today, and I'm like, I can't believe the lines that we're getting on.
Lost you.
Oh, sorry. Let me switch back. I was doing like props earlier today. I was like, I couldn't believe the lines that we were getting, and then I was looking at the salaries. I'm like, these salaries are crazy too. Like, it's just like the industry just is behind. It seems like Jakob Poeltl seems too cheap quickly. RJ Barrett, they all seem a little bit too cheap. So I'm right there with you. But yeah, Charlotte wise, who do you like better? Is it Nick Richards or PJ Washington?
I mean, just looking at the model, it has Nick Richards ahead by a little bit. I mean, twice as much ownership, so they're probably pretty close to me in terms of how much we want to get to each. I don't think I have a very strong preference on either of them, though.
Okay, yeah, I think that's fair. I do like PJ Washington just as price tag. I mean, it's the same for both of them, but I don't know. PJ Washington, I just feel like has a better ceiling and he's power forward eligible, so I've been getting there a little bit more. But what about Brandon Miller? He feels too cheap. Like he should be 8K, I feel like, with Rozier and Ball off the court.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by how low his ownership today. His ownership was today. I had to check what his projection was kind of industry wide, and it's a little bit lower than I'd expect. But at 3% ownership, I mean, so he picked up 3 fouls in the game against the Lakers last time out in the first half, and he kind of got benched for it, which just makes no sense to me because just let him play. Yeah. And then he went ballistic in the second half. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. 350 balls in a row for Brandon Miller. Never would have thought that would have happened if you asked me before the season, but he looks awesome. And with Gordon Hayward still out, maybe his ownership comes up a little bit. Maybe people, I don't know, still need to adjust to that. But yeah, I think he looks fine. Him and Jonathan Kuminga are pretty similarly priced. I favor Jonathan Kuminga today, but Brandon Miller's a pretty good pivot, or you could just play both of them together.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know. I've been playing Brandon Miller a ton, so I'm probably just going to roll with him. Like Kuminga, though, I've been lately. I was a little bit late on him, but yeah, that's also a good spot there as well. Let's jump into Boston a little bit as well. We got news that Drew Holiday is going to be out. I don't think that really changes too much for Boston, though. We've seen this a bunch already this season. Does that move the needle for you at all?
Not really. I mean, Derek White, we're going to be interested as a tournament play. The 6,500 on DraftKings sounds great. And then was Peyton Pritchard pulling? Yeah, Peyton Pritchard's at 14% on DraftKings, 9 on FanDuel, 3,500 and 4,400. I mean, I thought Peyton Pritchard looked okay. I'm getting a little bit of him in my exposures, but just like a sprinkling, nothing priority at all.
Yeah, I don't really get why they decided to just drop his price down just like randomly over the past like couple of games before. It was just like 4K, because they're always so injured. I don't know. That was strange. So yeah, I can get behind it. It's just, do we need to, I guess? And we'll see. It really just obviously build dependent.
Yeah.
And then kind of other injury news. Let's talk about Philly. It's going to be tough to break them down just because we don't know if Max is going to play. And then Daniel House currently questionable as well. But looking at it, we know that Embiid's out, Melton's out, Batum's out, Covington's out. And I saw some like weird stuff with the Sixers, like, oh, they all were ruled out. There's going to be a trade or something. But kind of what are you doing tonight for Philly?
I think I'm going to build as if Tyrese Maxey's not playing. But this game is a half hour after lock, so it's not a big deal. There's still 3 other games we can get to if he ends up being in. Regardless, I'm going to be pretty interested in Tobias Harris. And I think that's the main spot. Like I've been talking about Paul Reed on stream every time they play, but it's unfortunate. I mean, they're playing Golden State. In theory, it's a really good matchup for him, but He just hasn't been getting enough minutes to where we're super interested in playing him. So it's probably just Tobias. And then if Maxi's out, I'll be interested in Kelly Oubre, depending what his ownership comes in at it.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's pretty low. I would agree. Like if Maxi's out for sure, he's someone I want to get to. If Maxi's active, he still is a decent GPP play regardless.
Yeah, and then like Pat Bev pulling 14% on FanDuel. I imagine obviously it's going to go up if
That's
Maxi's
all
out.
Nick. That's all Nick. That's all his lineups.
He's playing 100% Pat Bev tonight.
Yeah.
I don't know if Maxi's out and he's starting. He's probably okay at that price tag. So, but if Maxi's in, then it's just a 0% play for me.
No, I agree there. And like you said, like we maybe will have that news in enough time. I mean, we should. A little bit later. I mean, we have 2 games that start early, and then the rest we got 3 that are in the middle, and then 2 late night games. So it's not too crazy. We should be able to manage our lineups that way. Let's jump into Detroit as well. Injury news wise, Isaiah Stewart's still out, and then Bogdanovich is questionable. Cade Cunningham game time decision. Do you have a lean on what you're trying to do here for Detroit?
Well, first of all, they had a big trade today.
Dude, I had to pause there. I was like, Fontecchio, what? I was so confused. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, they traded away Monte Morris and Kevin Knox, and so I don't know. It opens up a few minutes in the rotation, right? I was slightly more interested in Jaden Ivey today, and then Cade Cunningham. He's basically always a GPP play to me, especially when he's around this 8K price. Great matchup against Sacramento. And then on the other side, we're going to be pretty interested in a couple of Kings too. So I don't mind getting to a couple pieces here. I will say the Sar Thompson ownership at 22% and 12%. I feel like I'd rather play Alec Burks at half the ownership on DraftKings anyway, at like $200 more. Sar Thompson, I mean, he was awesome to start the season, but recently he hasn't been doing it. Well, all right, I think we lost Eric for a second, but yeah. Anyways, so Sar Thompson, it's like him and Alec Burks, their ownerships are flip-flopped on DraftKings and FanDuel. And so if you're over on FanDuel, I think I still kind of like getting to Alec Burks more. But yeah, on DraftKings, I don't know. I'm having a tough time getting to a Sar Thompson. I think that's a fine fade. We'll have to see what the starting lineup ends up being. 13.5 point spread. It's not too bad. Like we are in blowout territory, but it's not the worst. And then as I mentioned, Jaden Ivey, 6,400 on DraftKings. I'll have a little bit of interest. Danilo Gallinari at 3,400 on DraftKings. I think I was getting a couple percent, so it's probably okay. And then Jalen Duren at center, sub 10% at 6,900. I think he's okay to take some shots. Bojan's pulling no ownership over on DraftKings, but 17 on FanDuel. Something to pay attention to. Probably want to sprinkle in some Bojan on DraftKings. And then on the other side of that game, hold on one second, guys. De'Aaron Fox, his price is like the lowest we've seen it in a long time, 8,100 over on DraftKings. He's a little chalky, 21%. I mean, this whole Kings team is pretty chalky. Trey Lyles coming in at 21%, 3,200 also. Kevin Huerter, it's actually like kind of the mega chalk today, 35% on DraftKings, 47 on FanDuel. He's 5K on DraftKings, the 5,700 on FanDuel at a higher ownership. I mean, he's fine. I don't think he's someone we target. I don't necessarily think he's someone that we want to fade. And Malik Monk, like I've been talking about the last few times that he's played, like he went through a really rough stretch where he just wasn't getting the minutes. He didn't look awesome. And he was pulling like no ownership, and no one got to him. So he wasn't, but he was a tournament winner a couple of those slates when he was 1% owned. Had a bunch of them, just didn't have the right combo. And today he's coming in 23%, 29%. It seems so random, especially considering he's not going to get the blowout run in the event that Sacramento blows out Detroit. But at 5,400, 23% on DraftKings and 6K, 29% on FanDuel. I think he's okay on both sides too. I'm not going to try to get more. I'm not going to try to get away from him. Yeah, Malik Monk over Pat Bev. I don't mind it. I think that's fine. I mean, it's obvious that Malik Monk has a higher ceiling than Pat Bev. And like Pat Bev probably has a higher floor, especially if Maxey is out. But Malik Monk is going to be the guy that's going to help us win a tournament. Pat Bev, to me, is more just like a last player in if the rest of your lineup looks pretty good. I can't pull up the model on screen. Sorry about that, guys. But let me see if there's any other injury news before we get Eric back here. Draymond is questionable, and Andrew Wiggins is probable. Andrew Wiggins missed the previous time. Pods was chalk. His price came up. I mean, Pods is probably still a GPP play, but not someone that we're going to be looking too hard at. And then Draymond, I actually do really like Draymond. I mentioned I like Jonathan Kuminga a lot at his price. I mean, 4%, 6% ownership. It seems insane that we're interested in playing Jonathan Kuminga at 72 and 7,600, but he's been, other than Steph, he's been the highest usage player on Golden State. And he's taken a leap. He's shooting an insane percentage from the field. He finally had one bad game when he fouled out. He would have got there if he got that overtime in those last few minutes. But, Kuminga, he's going to look awesome, I think. And we have Klay Thompson pulling 20% ownership. His price is pretty good, 5,500 on DraftKings, 61 on FanDuel. I think he's fine to take shots on. I feel like I'd rather pay a little bit more and find some value somewhere else and just get up to Kuminga. And as I mentioned, Draymond Green at 6,300 seems pretty good. And then Grady Dick from Toronto. Let's take a look. Give me 1 second, guys. So with Toronto, RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly both pulling 20% over on DraftKings, about 27% on FanDuel. I think they're both fine GPP plays. I kind of thought Emmanuel Quickly was going to be even more popular today. A little bit surprised he's not. I think the price is appropriate. We'll see what that comes in at. Jakob Poeltl, Eric mentioned on the intro.